Hello everyone, this is Eddie and welcome to this session. And today we are going to talk about the performance test, and I'm going to show you guys some critical techniques here that you can employ. We are going to focus on the rules, on those essential rules that you need to identify and that you need to analyze. It's going to be mind-blowing. You're going to be like, oh my goodness, this is great. So some things about me, let's see, I did not pass the bar exam the first time. I took it multiple times before I passed. And one of the reasons I did not pass was because I just could not grasp the concepts there to get a passing score on the performance test. But I did develop a method, and I'm going to share that with you. And essentially what you do is, at the beginning, when you have your high energy there, at a high level, you focus on getting the rules. Okay, now you do spend time in the file, and you do spend time getting the task and making sure you understand that. And of course, you do get the major issues. But what I'm here to say is that, hey, look, let's focus on those critical rules, because if you do not get them, you're not going to do that analysis. So I am going to base this information on the performance test book that I wrote. If you have not gotten your hands on it, there is a link here somewhere, okay? And you are going to be able to get that book. It is free at the moment, so take advantage of it now. So let's begin. So I'm looking at this screen now, the performance test. Now we are going to focus on the July 2018 performance test. And if you have not taken this particular exam, don't worry about it. You can still follow along, and you should follow along. So there won't be any spoilers there, because all I'm showing you is how to extract those rules and elements, which you're going to do anyway. And that's where your analysis is going to be done. So we're not going to do any analysis, but we are going to focus on identifying those rules. So there are 3 steps to identifying the rules. So I want you to be patient with me. We're going to go through 2 of them that are critical. So bear with me, all right? I want you to give me your full attention here, because everything that I'm saying is important. All right. So when it comes to identifying the rules, there are 3 essential steps. Step 3, step 5, and step 7. Of course, I'm skipping some, but these are the most important steps to identifying the rule. So here's a good way of thinking of them. So for step number 3, you identify the apparent rules, and that's what I call the low-hanging fruit. So I'm going in, I'm going to get the major rules. And then for step 5, I'm going to identify the less apparent rules, the other non-major rules. It might be a combination, and it might be mixed with major rules. And then for step 7, those are the extremely unapparent rules, and that's where you capture rules where you can feel comfortable. You can say, hey, look, I feel comfortable that I got those passing points, and that's where you want to be, because exams that do not pass usually will not touch on these rules, or they will not be organized, or they just run out of time. So I'm going to show you how to extract those right from the beginning. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so here we also had 2 areas during the file stage. 2 main areas. We had a plea bargain agreement, and we also had a hearing. So we did have 2 major issues there. And the first one, the conduct underlying the plea does not justify a finding of moral turpitude. I'm going to highlight that in green. And then the second major issue, Ms. Watkins' testimony at the hearing. So we have a testimony at the hearing. Okay, so those are the 2 areas there. And we're going to find those rules and elements so we can have a proper analysis. So here we go. Okay, so I'm going to focus on the 3rd step. And here's what I have after looking for those major rules within 2 minutes. All right, think about it. Within 2 minutes, I'm already going in and extracting those rules, and here they are. Now, the time that you focus on this is very brief. Now, you may not end up using all these rules, and if you don't, that is fine. Why? Because it did not take too much time, and also because once you complete this step, you're able to move on to the next step, and it's just going to develop as far as your structure concerning the rules and the elements and the analysis. It's like putting a puzzle together. You will see. So for the third step there, the first issue is going to look like this: willfully committed acts. Okay, and I do have a code there, and here's how it's going to look on your actual booklet. Okay, it looks like that. But once you highlight, and all you're doing is pretty much going for the rules. Look at that, it's highlighted right there. And then the next page there. Now you see how you have a rule there, Business and Professional Code 6101. So I just highlight that very briefly. Now here I saw the rule, but it did not give me many elements. So what I do there, if that happens, I just look at the next paragraph. And sometimes what I do is I look at the paragraph before and I just scan. So here, if I look at the next paragraph, it says described. Okay, so for the purposes of the rules of professional responsibility, it is described as this. So I just kind of highlight that. I'm not going to extract too much. I'm not going to spend too much time here, because again, some of these rules may be applicable, sometimes they're not. Okay, so I'm going to make a note of that in my outline, and then I'm going to type on my word processor. Okay, now this is the second issue there, 3 felony counts. Okay, I was able to capture that. And again, I might not use that, or I don't know. But again, it's not too extensive. So I'm just going to write it down very briefly. That's the key, to be brief. Don't get bogged down. So again, this is the low-hanging fruit. And I am looking for rules that are apparent. That is the key. Okay, not what sounds like relevant. A lot of students confuse what is relevant to answering properly and what is apparent. All we're doing here is we are just identifying the rules that are apparent. Believe me, please. Okay, you're gonna see how this plays out. So the third step, after I complete identifying the rules, I do a quick outline, and then I type my product. I already have this. So we are in the first 45 minutes, and I'm already writing. Hit the ground running. Okay. So now let's go on to step number 5, and I'm going to highlight this in pink. Now for this step right here, it is going to require some type of skill, because you have to do reading comprehension and you have to organize. So this does take practice in order to develop those skills, but you can do it. As a matter of fact, you should be doing 1 performance test or 1 MPT per week. I strongly advocate for that type of preparation. So I'm gonna give you guys a quick tip when it comes to this step here, because again, what you're doing is you're pretty much applying a reading technique. You're applying reading comprehension techniques. So what I do to a case is this, and you're gonna see how this plays out in a bit. What I do for step number 5 is I look at the first paragraph there, and it gives me some facts about the case. And then I look, and it might even give me the issues. All right, and I might even read like a little bit into the case there, very briefly, and then I go down to the last paragraph where the whole thing is at. And that's going to allow me to understand what the case is about. So it's going to say, okay, this rule here, okay, this is what the defendant pleaded as a defense. It may be good, it may not, as it applies to the facts, but at least I have some kind of direction. Okay, now again, right here, these are the less apparent rules. Are they valuable? Yes, they are extremely valuable. Now I have more content as it relates to moral turpitude, as you see there. Now this is a long rule, but I'm fine with that. This does not take up too much time. And while I'm doing this, in between these steps, step 3 and step 5, there was step 4, what I'm doing is I'm going back to the file and I'm skimming. So I'm not neglecting the content of the file. I'm just approaching it in a methodical manner. And I'm trying to see what is relevant, what is not. And then it says that, okay, again, if you apply that standard clear and convincing evidence, which they should in this case, and then that means that If there are any reasonable doubts, they must be resolved in favor of the accused attorney. So that's going to be key as well. And I'm going to show you guys how I found this in the case. Let's do that now. And we'll get to this other part later. Okay. Let's see now. So this is the issue here. The first issue about the plea. See that? And here's where I found the information. So as you can see here, some of the elements there, they're not apparent. Look at that. Chadwick's misconduct. So they are embedded within the facts. Acquired material, not public information. You guys see that? So they are not apparent. That's the point that I'm trying to make here. Now, look at this. I'm going to show you guys this really cool strategy. And I already mentioned it a little bit earlier before. I said, look at the first paragraph. Now, for this second issue here about the testimony. Okay, now we're into Salas, into the case Salas. Okay, now, here is the case Salas. And now look, I'm looking for rules, major rules, elements that deal with issue number 2, the testimony at the hearing. And the content should be highlighted in pink. Look at that. And I'm looking for less apparent rules. Nothing there, look. And I'm thinking that felony counts does not even apply. Okay, so I might just erase that. And then look at that, page 2 of the case, nothing. And then when I get to page 3, the last page of the case, there's a lot of useful information here. Now, I sincerely believe that if you capture this information here under step number 5, you could have gotten a passing score. Now, notice how the content is laid out at the last paragraph of the case. All right. So it says here, and I'm only looking for the less apparent rules. The reason why I'm looking for all of the rules is because I still don't have a really solid understanding of the file. I kind of have an idea of where it's going, but I'm not there yet. So I want to be sure that the activities that I do under step 5, that they are strategic, is the word I would use. So here I highlighted an honest mistaken belief. Look at that. That might be a defense, a mistaken belief. Then it says, in his innocence does not signal a lack of candor. Okay, so think about that. That could be critical. And then the rule that I'm going to identify and extract, after that it says, a lack of candor should not be found merely on respondents' different memory of events. Of course, later on you do see, after you focus on the file, you do clearly see that Miss Watkins there, that she could not remember many things. So that's going to be critical. Now, the reason I did not highlight that again is because that's going to be saved for step number 7. But you can see already under step number 5, I'm already identifying areas that are critical. Now, look at this. Look at the last paragraph. This was actually the last paragraph of the performance test as far as the library was concerned. So sometimes they'll do that. They'll put key information all the way at the end because they know that many of the examinees are going to focus their energy at the beginning, reading the file and then reading the cases. So by the time they get to this point, they're going to be out of time and out of energy, and they're not going to get that passing score. So now let's focus on this. So they do talk about the clear and convincing element there, but what does that even mean? And here's what it says. It means, and I think we discussed this earlier, but look at the next line. If equally reasonable inferences may be drawn from a proven fact, the inference to innocence must be chosen. Now that sounds like a lot of blah, blah, blah. That's why I did not highlight it. But I'm going to just give you a little insight as to the facts there in the case. So in this case, there was 2 words that were used, and they caused a lot of confusion, and that was acquisition and that was merger. So if you were able to identify this rule and then talk about merger versus acquisition, I mean, you're talking about extra points here, and that's what I said. And of course, that comes under step number 7, which we're not going to talk about, but you see how that could easily put you in a position where you're comfortable about your performance test score, and it could even be that you get points above a 65. That was a lot of information there, so I'm going to stop And again, look at the PT ebook that I wrote and just practice with that, and your skills are going to develop. If you have any questions on the performance test, I am available for one-on-one tutoring based on hourly basis, and I also have a package deal for more hours at a discounted price. And the great thing about that is that it could be a group session, and the maximum amount of students that I could have there are 3. So I hope this session helped, and I wish you all the best. Until soon.